Prologue: The Endless Rain. It began with rain, not the gentle patter that nourished millet and rice, but endless torrents, hammering the earth day after day, night after night. The rivers swelled, their banks bursting. Fields turned to swamps, villages to islands. Families clung to rooftops, watching the waters swallow their world. The elders whispered, "It is Gonggong. The dragon has awoken." And in the roar of the flood, sometimes, just beneath the thunder, one could hear his laughter. Chapter 1: The Boy of the River. Among the drowning valleys lived a boy named Shen, son of a fisherman's family. His home stood on stilts, yet even those stilts bent as the water licked higher each day. He was young, his shoulders thin, but his eyes were sharp. He carried his little sister on his back when the waters came too close, led his mother to higher ground, tried to be stronger than he was. One night, as lightning split the heavens, Shen dreamed of a dragon. Red eyes burning in a sea of black water, scales glinting like obsidian. The beast whispered, "Clay walls crack, wooden houses break, all will drown. None can stop the flood." He awoke screaming, clutching his chest. Outside, the river roared like a beast unchained. Chapter 2: The Arrival of You. On the third month of rain, strangers came. Men dragging heavy carts of stone, carrying bronze tools, their faces lined with exhaustion. At their head walked a tall man with hair black as ravens and eyes fierce as fire. The villagers whispered, "You, son of Gun, you the great, the flood-tamer." He stood upon the ruined embankment, his gaze sweeping the raging waters. His voice was deep, carrying even through the storm. "These floods are no accident. Gonggong thrashes against the order of heaven. But I will carve the river's new paths. I will build dams, raise embankments, place charms of jade and bronze. We will bind him." The villagers bowed, hope flickering faintly. But Shen did not bow. He stepped forward, trembling but resolute. "My family is lost if the waters rise again. Let me help you." You studied him, eyes narrowing. Then slowly he nodded. "Very well, boy. Then you shall be my hands when mine grow weary." Chapter 3: First Labor. The work began at dawn. Shen hauled stones larger than his chest, his hands bleeding, his legs shaking. You guided him, showing how to stack each rock so the weight pressed against the flood, not against itself. By night, Shen collapsed, but you only set another stone. "You rest," you asked without scorn. "The dragon does not rest." Shen gritted his teeth, rose, and lifted another stone. At dusk, you placed a talisman, jade carved with flowing sigils, into the heart of the dam. It glowed faintly, and the waters recoiled. Shen stared. "Is it magic?" Yu's eyes flicked to the river. "It is a promise. Stone and sweat alone cannot hold back Gonggong. We must bind him with symbols, oaths, and sacrifice." The boy shivered. "What kind of sacrifice?" You did not answer. Chapter 4: Gonggong's Warning. That night, as Shen slept on the wet earth, he dreamed again. The dragon rose from the black depths, scales slick with water, jaws wide enough to swallow mountains. "You build walls against rivers?" Gonggong's voice was thunder beneath waves. "Foolish child, stones will crack, jade will shatter. When I rise, I will drown your people first." Shen shook his head in the dream. "We will stand. We will fight you." The dragon's laughter shook him awake. Outside, the dam they had built that day was already groaning under the surge. Shen ran to you. "He spoke to me. Gonggong. He means to strike here first." You looked at him sharply, then nodded. "Then you have been marked. That makes you stronger than you know. But it also means he will never let you rest." And so the boy understood. His life was no longer his own. He had stepped into the war between gods and men. Chapter 5: Stone and Sweat. Day after day, Shen labored beside you and the flood workers. They hauled boulders from the mountains, dragged timber from drowned forests, and sank them into the raging current. Their bodies ached, their skin blistered, their voices cracked with exhaustion. At night, you would walk among the half-finished barriers, pressing jade talismans into cracks between stones, whispering words that only the river could hear. The charms glowed faintly, their light struggling against the black waters. "Why jade?" Shen once asked, holding up a carved disc. "Because jade endures," you answered. "Stone may crack, bronze may rust, but jade carries purity. It binds not with weight, but with spirit." Shen pressed the charm into the dam's heart, and for a moment the waters eased, before roaring back even stronger. The boy clenched his teeth. "He hates us. He wants us broken." You nodded grimly. "Yes, Gonggong is the storm given flesh. He is not only water, but fury." Chapter 6: The Whisper of Spirits. One night, Shen carried buckets of clay to seal gaps in the wall when he heard voices. Soft, hissing, like reeds bending in wind. "Child of mud, leave this place. The waters claim all." He froze. Out of the mist rose figures. Pale, dripping, their eyes hollow, their mouths spilling riverweed. Spirits of the drowned. They circled him, whispering, "You cannot save you. Gonggong rises. You belong to us already." Shen gripped his broken-handled bucket like a weapon. "No, I choose to stand with him." The spirits hissed, swirling around him. But Yu's voice thundered from the embankment. "Back, shades. You are bound by oath and jade." He cast a talisman into the air. It flared green, and the spirits scattered with screams. Shen trembled. They said I belong to the river." You placed a heavy hand on his shoulder. "Only if you yield. Do not listen. But remember, the waters always whisper before they strike." Chapter 7: The Cracking Wall. The first dam was finished by midsummer. A wall of stone and timber, strengthened with clay and sealed with jade. For a week, the waters receded, and fields emerged from the muck. Villagers returned, cheering. Some even laughed for the first time in months. But Yu's face stayed grim. "It will not last. He will test us." And indeed, on the 7th night, the river groaned like a wounded beast. Shen ran to the wall and saw it bulge, water pressing from behind like the belly of some enormous creature. Then came the roar. From the depths rose Gonggong's minions, serpents of water, their bodies coiled from foam, their eyes glowing red. They hurled themselves against the dam, biting at wood, tearing at stone. Shen seized a spear, thrusting wildly, each strike dissolving one serpent into spray. Around him, workers fought with torches, hammers, and bare fists. You stood atop the wall, his voice carrying above the chaos. "Hold! The wall must hold." But Shen heard another voice in the crash of waves. Gonggong's voice, deep and merciless. "You cannot bind me, child of clay. Each stone you place, I will tear away. Each dam you raise, I will drown." Chapter 8: Blood in the Water. The wall shuddered. A crack split through its heart, water spraying like arrows. Shen climbed, driving a jade charm into the fissure with his bleeding hands. The light spread, holding the stones for a moment longer. But in that moment, one of the water serpents struck him, dragging him beneath the flood. Cold, crushing, endless. Shen flailed, lungs burning, darkness pressing in. And there, in the abyss, two red eyes opened. Gonggong himself, vast and coiling, his jaws opening to reveal a cavern of teeth. "You fight for you," the dragon hissed through the current. "But Yu's path is not yours. You are mortal. You will drown as all mortals drown. Give yourself to me, and I will make you more than clay." Shen's vision dimmed, his chest on fire. Yet in his heart, a voice stirred. Not Yu's, not Gonggong's, but his own. "No," he gasped, though no breath remained. "I will not serve you. If I must drown, I drown free." The dragon's laughter shook the river. The jaws closed, but at that instant, Yu's arm plunged into the water, hauling Shen out by sheer force. The boy coughed, vomiting river mud, his body trembling. Yu's gaze was like steel. "You saw him," you said. Shen nodded weakly. Yu's jaw tightened. "Then he will never let you go." Chapter 9: The Breaking Point. The rains did not stop. Day after day, Torrents fell until the rivers no longer had banks, only endless, roaring seas. The dams trembled, jade charms flickering like dying fireflies. You stood before his workers, his voice ragged but unyielding. We hold the rivers here or the world is lost. Gonggong cannot be allowed to break us. Shen lifted stones with bloody hands, his body thin, his eyes hollow, yet his spirit burned. He thought of his sister, clinging to their stilt house before it was swallowed, of his mother's weary hands, of the dragon's mocking eyes. This wall will hold, he whispered. It must. But in the depths, Gonggong stirred. Chapter 10, The Dragon Rises. It began as a tremor, then a roar, louder than thunder, louder than mountains breaking. The waters erupted, towering into a wave that blotted out the sky. From the surge rose Gonggong, colossal, his serpent body coiling through the storm, horns curving like jagged peaks, his eyes red lanterns of hatred. Scales gleamed black as obsidian, each one the size of a house. The villagers screamed, workers fled. Only you and Shen stood firm. The dragon's voice rolled like an earthquake. You, child of Gun, you think your stones and charms can bind the sea? You think your clay child can defy me? I am flood. I am ruin. Bow or drown with the world. You planted his feet, his staff glowing with runes. You will not unmake what heaven decreed. And Shen, though trembling, raised his broken spear. I will not bow. Gonggong's laughter was the sound of mountains collapsing. Chapter 11, The Shattered Dam. The dragon struck. His body slammed against the dam, stones bursting apart, with splintering like bones. Waves crashed higher than trees, sweeping men from the walls. You raised his staff, casting a circle of jade light that shielded a stretch of the barrier. Hold, he roared. Every stone is a soul. Do not let him take them. Shen fought beside him, plunging jade talismans into the cracks, each one burning his hands. But Gonggong's coils crushed the wall, his jaws tearing entire sections free. Clay breaks, the dragon bellowed. Clay drowns. A serpent of water struck Shen, dragging him down again into the flood. He clawed for air, for light, and found himself once more in the abyss before Gonggong's massive face. You are mine, the dragon hissed. No jade, no oath, no god can save you. Yield, Shen screamed, though no sound left his mouth. I am not yours. And in his chest, something ignited. Not jade, not use magic, but his own will. His body burned with light, cracks glowing golden through his skin. Chapter 12, The Clash of Will. Shen rose within the water, not drowning, but burning like a torch against the abyss. He drove his spear into Gonggong's scales, light exploding where it struck. The dragon howled, thrashing, whirlpools tearing through the river. Yu's voice echoed through the storm above. Stand, boy, stand, and the wall will hold. Shen struck again and again, each blow carving light into the darkness. The dragon writhed, his body shaking mountains, but the cracks in his scales widened. You cannot kill me, Gonggong roared. I am chaos eternal. Shen's voice rang, fierce and ragged. Then I will wound you eternal. With one last cry, he drove the broken spear into the dragon's eye. Gonggong screamed, his body collapsing into waves, his coils dissolving into floods that surged outward, but weakened, broken. Chapter 13, Aftermath of Fury. The dam stood, shattered in places, but still holding. The jade charms flared bright, binding the cracks. The waters receded, just enough for the land to breathe again. Shen collapsed on the stones, coughing blood, his body scarred with golden cracks as though fire had etched him. You lifted him, heavy with pride and sorrow. You have done what no mortal should do, you said. You have faced the dragon and lived. Shen's eyes fluttered. Did we win? You looked out at the raging river, Gonggong's voice still faint in the thunder. For now, he said, but he will never die, and neither can we rest. Shen closed his eyes, whispering, then we will rise every time he rises. Chapter 14, The Price of Defiance. The river quieted for the first time in years. The villagers emerged from their hiding places, blinking in disbelief at the stillness. Some wept, others fell to their knees. But you did not smile. He stood on the ruined dam, staff in hand, staring at the scarred waters. "The dragon is not gone," he said. "Only sleeping. He will thrash again." Shen sat at his side, his body trembling. Golden cracks glowed faintly across his skin where Gonggong's power had struck. He felt hollow, as if part of him had been left in the abyss. "Master Yu," he asked softly, "how many times must we fight him?" Yu's gaze was distant, fixed on the horizon. "As many times as the rivers rise. It is the curse of our kind. The waters will always test us. Gonggong is chaos itself. But each time we rise, we shape the world anew." Shen bowed his head. His heart was heavy, but in the weight there was also strength. Chapter 15, The Final Wall. The workers returned, broken but determined, to rebuild the dam. For weeks they hauled stone, sealed cracks with clay, pressed jade charms into place. The wall rose again, scarred but stronger. Yet every day, one of the workers would fall, swallowed by collapsing earth, crushed by rock, or swept away by sudden floods. Shen carved their names into driftwood, placing each at the heart of the dam. "Each stone is a soul," you had said. Now the wall carried not only jade and clay, but memory. One night, as Shen hammered a talisman into the stones, he felt the river stir beneath him. Gonggong's voice whispered, weaker but still venomous, "I will return. If not today, then tomorrow. If not tomorrow, then 1,000 years from now. Chaos never ends." Shen struck the talisman hard, his hands bleeding. "Then neither will we." Chapter 16, The Sacrifice. But Gonggong was not finished. On the last day of autumn, the dragon thrashed once more, sending a wave taller than the dam itself. The workers screamed. The wall groaned, ready to collapse. You braced it with his staff, light searing the stones, but even his strength faltered. "Shen!" he roared. "The charms. Place the last one at the crown." Shen scrambled, clutching the final jade disc. The wall shook beneath him, water spraying in sheets. He climbed higher, every step tearing his flesh, every crack in his body glowing brighter. At the top, he pressed the charm into place. It flared like a star. The dam blazed with green light, holding against the flood. But the wave struck, and Shen was hurled into the torrent. Yu's hand reached, but caught only air. The boy vanished into the churning dark. Chapter 17, The Calm. When dawn came, the river flowed within its banks for the first time in memory. The land, scarred and sodden, breathed again. The dam stood, glowing faintly where jade burned within its heart. The villagers knelt before you, tears streaming. "You have saved us," they said, but you did not answer. He walked alone to the river's edge, staring into the current. In the ripples, he thought he saw Shen's face, weary but unyielding, whispering, "We rise every time he rises." You bowed his head. "Your name will be carried in every stone, boy." Moral of the story. The story of you and Shen teaches that chaos is eternal, but so is the will to resist it. Gonggong cannot be destroyed, for storms and floods will always return. But each time humanity endures, we shape the world into something stronger. Sacrifice is the price of survival. Strength does not lie in never falling, but in rising again and again, even when the waters roar. Author's note: this tale blends the myth of Yu the Great, the legendary flood-tamer of ancient China, with the figure of Gonggong, the water dragon whose rage caused floods and chaos. Shen, the boy helper, is fictional, created to give the myth a personal human voice. Through his eyes, we see the cost of Yu's labors, the endless toil, the lives lost, the sacrifice required to tame the flood. The story is part myth, part invention. Its goal is not to retell history exactly, but to offer a dark, tragic journey into the heart of early Chinese legend. A reminder that every stone, every dam, every act of endurance carries the memory of those who stood against chaos.